All right. This is Black Hair Flying Billionaire. I am your host, Mark Richards, and we have a special episode. We're gonna be chopping it up because I want to make sure we get some camera time from my little prince right here. This is Mekhi Richards Pop. As you probably can tell, he's on the spectrum. But we said let's do a couple of minutes with him. He is special to us. That's the subject for our podcast. We wanted to make it special for one of the last podcasts of the year. We're going to continue on, but I wanted to make it special and bring him on. Pop, say hi.
Hi.
As you can tell, he is my company. We love him to death. And now we're going to break and I'm going to start. All right. I am so excited at Black Hair Flying Billionaire. This podcast is a special one for me. This time I don't have a guest. We got a co-host, right? It's my better half. You know, we've been through it. You know, we've had our ups and downs, but you know, it goes like this, up and down, as long as it keeps going up, right? And getting together in the projects, living in the South Bronx, going through it, right? Finally getting into home ownership, working through it, you know, got blessed with a great job. We got great jobs. We worked together and made some money. But on the way to living on Long Island with a nice crib and some investments, we've faced some type of tribulations, you know. And even before, with my health, with my sight, it was another thing that happened. You know, and that's what the subject is, what we're going to talk about. Before I bring on, I want to just say this real quick. We have 3 sons together, right? And our last son is on the spectrum. I had a baby in my 20s, 30s, and now 40s. And the last one, he's on the spectrum, and we're going to have a little clip of him, and we're going to show him. But, you know, I didn't want him to have him sitting here too long. But I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about autism, and what better guest, what better co-host can I have than my wife, Shedettah Richards. Let's give it up for her. So right around the mid-2012, July to be exact, we've had our 3rd son. His name is Mekhi Richards. We call him Pop. And when he was born, we didn't know what was wrong because we just thought maybe he's slow in speech. You know, usually babies start speaking when they're around 6 to 9 months. But for some reason, he wasn't talking. So we took him to a speech therapist. And then finally, she called me. And before I say anything, I want to bring her up. This is my wife, Shedettah Richards. Say hello to everybody at Black Hair Flying Billionaire.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you guys for chiming in. I'm excited about today's topic because it is near and dear to my heart. But just to give you a little backdrop, to be totally honest with you, we did not recognize an issue with Mekhi. When we found out that Mekhi was on the spectrum, the red flags was noticed by someone else. Right. I did not see the signs. I had no idea. There was no indication that there might have been anything wrong with Mekhi. So I'll just say who it was. And she's someone who's very near and dear to me. We've worked together for over 15 years at an insurance company. And she's like the second grandmother to my boys. They actually call her Grandma Connie. Her name is Connie Dingle. She came to me one day and she's like, Dita, you know, Mekhi is 18 months and I think that he should be saying more. And like Mark just mentioned that every decade it seemed as if we were having a kid. My kids are pretty spread apart in age. The first 2 are about 9 years apart. My oldest is 21 years older than his last brother. My middle son is 13 years older than Mekhi. So some of the milestones I didn't remember. I didn't catch it. I might have missed it. And she was the one who suggested that I have him evaluated. And I do realize that even in our community, that we tend to ignore the signs when there seems to be an issue with our children when it comes to milestones and the typical development, we tend to ignore it because most of us don't want to deal with it or don't want to accept that there could be a possibility that something could be wrong with your child. So, needless to say, he was 18 months when he was classified on the spectrum. And I actually consider it a blessing that not only was somebody paying enough attention to recognize that there was an issue, but that I was receptive enough to take the necessary steps to have him evaluated. Because, some people consider me a unicorn when they see how well Mekhi is doing, that, he has a lot of characteristics of typical children despite his classification. And I attribute that to early intervention, keeping him very active in sports and, social, and keeping him social in all types of environments, not hindering him from what I would think would, not be with something you do with a child that's on the spectrum. Bottom line is that I don't treat him any different than I did with my other boys.
Let's talk about that, right? It's good that you said that because I want to ask you about that. Talk to me. Tell me about when you first found out, when the teacher said, or the evaluator said, your child has ASD. He's on the autism spectrum. What was your feelings?
At first, I was numb.
Right.
A lot of people who know me since childhood, they label me as a tough cookie, where I don't wear what I'm wearing on my shoulders. Like, you would have no clue that I'm actually dealing with whatever I'm dealing with because they say that I wear it well. I dealt with trauma very, very early in life, so I don't know if that plays a role in how I was able to handle what was going on with Mekhi. But for some reason, initially I was numb. It was just a host of emotions: nervous, uncertain, confused. I could go on and on. But I didn't stay in those emotions for long because I realized that, I just got to pull up my bootstraps and just steamroll through this thing. And whatever steps or necessary services or that are required for him to live the most productive life possible,
right,
that was my goal.
Right, because you got the page, autism exists in our community, and I want to talk about that. Like, as and Mekhi has just turned 13 in July, and I know throughout the years people have come to you for advice. They have asked you for what to do as far as treatment of him. How do you do what you do? What does that feel like? How does that feel to be a catalyst as a parent of an autistic child?
I mean, I thank you for considering me a catalyst, but I don't see myself as that. When it comes to the special needs community, being involved in this community for well over 13 years, the one thing that I've noticed is that when it comes to the parents of these children, we bleed blue. That's the thing. We don't. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. Like, typical society, we deal with racism and biases and all these other isms. But those things do not exist when it comes to this community. The parents, I don't care if you're from India, if you're from an Asian continent, everyone just welcomes you with open arms. They come in with the drive of wanting to help one another. I call it the pay it forward system. If you know of a program in your neighborhood that's offering a special needs program or sporting activity for your kid, we share the information.
Right.
If you know about, for example, there's an agency called OPWDD. It's a government-funded agency that most parents with special needs, they apply for because it's a government agency that applies social services for children and even young adults on the spectrum. It's funded by the government. Every year, the government allocates at least I think last year they allocated over $4 million to this program to help families with children with special needs, anywhere from the ages of like 8 till you age out of the district of of school,
Right.
and you're like 22 years old or 23 years old and you're looking to work. This program or this agency will help you navigate through those necessary steps.
You know what? And I'm gonna ask this question, but I want you guys to know that I'm not crying. It's the pollen in the basement here that's getting to me. But I want to say this because we do a lot of stuff together. We do investing together. You're an entrepreneur. You're a real estate agent. We're real estate investors. We do business in ventures. But I want to ask, how do you balance that, right? Like, because this that's not easy. Being a mother, right, in America today, right, especially today, with an autistic child, being an entrepreneur, how do you balance that? Do you get what I'm asking you?
Yeah. At first, it was tough because you're very protective of children on the spectrum,
Right.
or children in general. But usually, when they have this inability, you tend to take um, necessary precautions as far as making sure that their safety is your number one priority.
Right.
So I'm very careful, very skeptical about who I would want to leave him with, who's involved in his life, who's he's around.
Right.
So
we gotta support.
I create a balance where I just lean on my support system.
Right.
He has two brothers. I have his nephew, who I delegate.
Let's give it up for the brothers
I
and the
delegate.
nephew. Come on now.
Not afraid to assign a role to everyone because
Can't
we're
trust
a team.
everybody, right?
Right, we're a team, and everybody, who's the point guard, who's the center, okay? Everybody plays their position, everybody plays their role, and it's okay for me not to have to be the one to do everything.
See, she got to do a basketball reference because I'm a ball player.
I'm not
you know what I mean?
I'm not a superhero, nor am I trying to be. And I think the power of being a successful team or is collaborating and everybody knowing their role and knowing when to step in and just
Right. We're gonna break in a minute. I just want to say this. As you can see, I'm crying my eyes out because with my sight, it is what it is. I don't live. I got more years back of me than I have ahead of me, so whatever. But he didn't get a fair shot, right? So it gets to me because he didn't get a fair shot. So that's my company, that's my life. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm crying. I know I never do this, but let's go to break. Let's go to break. Black Hair Flying Billionaire. We're back talking to my better half here, Shedettah. I got more questions, but
hold on. I got a question for you. So, how does it feel to be visually impaired?
That's crazy because we was talking about autism, but it kind of gels together, right? It's a disability, right? And we hate to be called disabled, but it is what it is. Being blind, visually impaired, low vision, legally blind, it's all the same shit. It's a spectrum, right? And what I realized is that I lost a lot of my sight, but I got 20/20 vision. I see people where they're at. I know where they're at. Before one of my weaknesses was no discernment. Like I liked everybody. Now I can peep where you're coming from with my sight. There's a saying by Andrew Young, and one of my favorite dudes, John Hope. He says a saying that coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous, and anonymity, because I needed to realize who was in my corner as things started moving forward for us. You understand? So I don't like being blind, but I get it. I understand where everybody's at. I understand that sometimes the people in my life, like you and the boys, it's a lot on them, right? Because after a while, it wears you down. Like, come on, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, go to the post office yourself, like, right? But the thing about blindness, we have our own community, and we all kind of like get together. And I don't love it, but I don't hate it, and that's all I got.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, let's get back to the spectrum autism. I'm talking with the creator of Autism Exists in Our Community on Facebook. You can join the group if you need any type of kind words, if you need any advice, because trust me, everybody seems like they're on the spectrum a little bit, right? Shedettah Richards, my question to you is, because we was talking on break about some of the funny crap that's been happening, but my question to you is, like, what's next? Like, where do we go from here, right? Because I see gene cell therapy working in other countries. Of course, they're not going to have it in America because that means America loses money. But where does autism go from here? Do we hold hands? Because it went from, and help me out with this, it went from 1 to every 10,000 to 1 to every 20 or something like that.
I mean, the statistics of how many from each child that's born every year, out of 1 to 3, or 1 out of every third child, 1 out of every third child could, possibly have autism,
Wow.
opposed to maybe
Wow.
1 out of 10,000 back in the early 90s.
Wow.
But you could actually look up the stats and see how it has grown exponentially.
Crazy.
I don't have the figures in front of me, so I'm not fully prepared for that question.
Google
but
it.
I do
Right.
know that the numbers they have jumped astronomically. But I'm not really sure where autism, or where the community of autism will be in the next couple of years. I can only speak for where I intend, or the life path that I'm designing, or helping to put together for Mekhi.
Right.
Because the best thing that could have happened to me, or happened to us, once we've found out about this classification, is that there were family members that had older children who were on the spectrum. And granted, I love getting the medical advice from all of the specialists, but what I realized was that some of these specialists were not even parents.
Right.
So, granted, they could give me the clinical advice, but you need more than clinical advice when it comes to raising children on the spectrum. So combined with the clinical advice and the family members who had young adult children on the spectrum, I think that it was the preparation that went into place is what helped me get him to where he is now.
Right.
So saying where we're going to be, I'll just keep working toward the plan. I mean, we're big on writing out vision boards. We've been doing it, well before Mekhi was born, and now he's 13.
Right.
So just like we apply a vision for our life, we're going to continue to execute the plan for his life.
Right, because he's not invited to all the parties. Like, we get that, right? Because we'll see it online that there was a children's party going on that he wasn't invited to. We get it. We're not upset about it, but we're kind of prepared for it, right?
Right. And that's pretty much why I make sure that I keep him involved in all type of social activities. And the good thing about autism is that it's a social disorder. That's one of the characteristics of the classification. And so sometimes, he doesn't, if he doesn't know, it doesn't affect him personally. But the goal is to help him become acclimated in a typical society, but then it becomes hard when typical friends or family members don't include him.
Right.
So I have to take it a step further and just have him interact with strangers so that he could, learn to become acclimated to society, because society is not going to acclimate to Mekhi.
Right.
So and I just wanted to backtrack once, because you asked me, how do I remain balanced? How do I create that life balance with working and
Yeah,
being
let's
a
speak on it.
mom and
Mhm.
having a child with special needs. The thing about this classification, it helps create that structure because people on the spectrum are typically routine driven. So
Right,
I have
right,
to stick to a structure, a routine, in order for us to be able to just help
right,
him thrive.
right.
So with this classification and the things
Bath at
that he
7,
succumbed to,
lights out at 9.
right?
Right,
It, you know, he sticks to that routine, what helps me stick to mine.
right. It's crazy because Pop swimming now, guys. Right, Mekhi is swimming now.
I mean, he's really good at it.
Like
And that's
really
going
good,
back
right?
to
No things on or
he
nothing. Just
I
yeah.
have him in swimming. He loves roller skating. He
Hmm.
does seasonal soccer.
Hmm.
The next thing will be jujitsu because um, unfortunately, you know, people tend to make fun of others with a disability. I mean, it's a cruel world
Hmm.
out there.
Yes,
And
yes.
even for my typical kids, my boys will tell you, I was their sparring partner. You
Yep.
know, my oldest son, he's what you call, he's a lover, not a fighter.
Right.
My mommy was a fighter. So if I'm your mom and you're being bullied, there's no such thing as bullying.
Shoot, Mark
So
fighting
I
now.
would tell him, well, yeah, that he outgrew,
Yeah, yeah.
but though I need to show Mekhi how to protect himself, but
Right,
I would have to do it in a way where he is trained so
right.
that he's not out looking for trouble and starting trouble, but I
Yeah.
want him to be able to defend himself in the event that he finds himself being
Right.
challenged
Go
and
see
he
that
could
movie, The
protect.
Accountant.
Yeah, I love the account, and then it's part of my inspiration. But the
Yeah.
next step for him will be jujitsu.
Okay, so all right, look, guys, I hope we answered your question. I want to ask her one more question. And I didn't even tell her about it. I hope we answered a lot of your questions, guys. Go to the Facebook page. Autism exists in our community. Please, like, get involved, ask any question, answer any question. We would love that. But here's the crazy thing, because we was talking about a crazy story that happened in Puerto Rico when you was doing mommy. So she wasn't prepared for this, guys. So buckle up. I want to know about that crazy story. Talk to us about that crazy
Well,
story
I'm
before
gonna.
we wrap it up.
Well, you know, when it comes to our children, especially for the moms, and I'm not saying that dads don't matter,
We do.
but you know, someone called it the mama bear syndrome. And the thing about it, when someone messes with your kids, moms will go to the edge of the earth to defend them.
Yep.
And unfortunately, we were at the poolside, and there was a family
In
of
Puerto
about
Rico.
5 in Puerto Rico,
Okay.
and one of the teenage kids were making fun of Mekhi. And I'm not proud of the way I responded, but the emotion control just went out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost it. I lost it because as a person on the spectrums, sometimes you do what we call stemming, where Mekhi needs to have that sensory,
Mm-hmm.
his sensory
Right,
needs
right.
fed. So he's rubbing his
Mm-hmm.
hands. Sometimes he hums. You'll see the mannerisms are not that of a typical person.
Right.
So these young teenagers thought it would be cool to make
Mm-hmm.
fun of my son. And boy, was that the wrong thing to do.
Let
So
me
I
tell you,
lost it.
she
And
she
needless to
she's
say,
talking all calm, but she was on the
that
phone with
family
me
just
talking
left.
about, I'm about to kick somebody's ass.
But yeah, yeah,
The Bronx came out, y'all.
But the thing about it is, when it comes to your children, moms will go to the end of the earth
That's
to
right.
protect them.
That's right. Let's give it up. Let's give it up to be the richest guys. I hope we answer your questions, and I want to thank my better half for being here with us and semi closing out this first season. Like I said, more to come, to be continued. Black Hair Flying Billionaire. We love you, right? We love you guys.